left off from this, but Deku's regeneration, I didn't think I went over that. He's not to a regenerating point that he can grow back a finger. He can only grow back a couple scratches. But his upgrade, if he would lose the tip of his finger now, it would grow back. But a whole finger, it would take about 5 minutes, I'll say. Which is pretty good, but because he did get a lot of slime cords, he would figure out an ability to create a core where his heart is. So where, if he wants to, unless somebody strikes him dead in the heart, he won't die. But it would take him a long time if they completely destroy his body to reform. I would say reforming his whole body would take a long time. Because I'll say it's a long process. And if it's the whole body, it'll take 6 months, just because I don't want him instantly to go back from half of his body getting destroyed. But yeah, so in this, Deku is around a grown adult that works out, not like constantly works out, but like a 2 hour exercise every day. And Deku would have grabbed a slime and tried to do some experiments on it, which turns out the clear slimes have the ability to absorb materials. When I mean absorb materials, think of the time I got reincarnated to a slime. And Deku would learn this by grabbing it, and he could get an analysis on it. But he can also reform that into something, which there are magical. They're not magic, but there are potions, sort of. But it's not like magic, it's like science, I guess. But yeah. He would be able to make anything that he sees, or like knows how to make. Sort of how Momo's quirk is. But because it's weak, he can't make big objects. But I'll say he absorbed some metal. I'll say he at least has a knife now. And he would go through that hole. He's around 8 by now. And he has a pretty good flame quirk. Or flame ability now. Which he can add to his knife and use flame cut. Pretty much. But I would say his quirk, it's kind of how Todoroki's flame quirk was as a kid. It was really strong for a kid's quirk. But he can't melt metal yet, but if somebody he can probably take down middle schoolers with his flame quirk. But like middle schoolers with decent quirks. And people with knife quirks, probably. He would go through the hole that he makes where slimes know about, but they haven't figured out there's a trap. And he refined the trap where it's invisible threads instead of seeable threads. And he would go through. He would be pretty much running, and he would be gaining energy by the second. And because of that trap, he also figured out how slimes reform. So what he's also been doing, how slimes can be formed is by green slimes. Green slimes are like the mother slimes, and they would make a newborn. He has giant slimes, so they can't fit through a little hole. And whenever the new one's made of the different kinds, they can escape, but the big slimes can't. So he practically has like a slime spawner right there, and he just keeps on getting energy. So he would not have infinite energy, but he would have a supply of energy to get it back easier and all that. He would also learn the ability to expand his body and all that, and he can separate his body. But yeah, he'll be running, and he would only get in 100 meters away from the wall, And this is whenever the small animals, they're called devil mice. Why they're called that is because they have red gleaming eyes. They're about as tall as a medium-sized dog, or a small-sized dog, but really fat. And the one special feature about them is that their tails have really sharp prongs on them, which once they hit into you, they're not like cutting force, they're like tearing force when they take it out. So kind of like a stingray's stinger. But yeah, Deku would charge in. They don't travel in packs because that they're they would the problem with these things, they reproduce really fast. Not as fast as slime, but they reproduce really fastly. So they would have, if you meet one, there's probably 2 more behind it by the lowest, which Deku would have the lowest. And Deku would make another knife and run with all of them charging his tail at him. But grown man should be able to dodge this, at least. He would dodge, swinging at it, cutting it, and then he would take the other knife, stabbing one in the eye, jumping back, cleaning it off. And that's whenever he would engulf it with flames, charging back with them, going to stab them. He slides, and he would cut their legs, or cut one of the legs, engulfing it in flames. And Deku can manipulate flames outside his body. So Deku would have spread that flame. He would like pour more energy into it, making it bigger, exploding it onto the others, making them scream. He'd run at them, swinging his blades down, cutting their heads open. Which these mice are, their ability is known as Sharp Body. So Deku would be able to pretty much make his hands like blades. Or, no, wait, what am I talking about? It's hardened, because their tails are just naturally like that. They're all pronged out, but they have a body hardening cork, like a 1-part body, and they only harden their tails. I'm trying to stay away off all the people from 1A. I'll say it is a, what's a good cork? I don't want to give him Todoroki's Ice and Fire. Oh yeah, also their strength isn't speed, as you can tell, because Deku can dodge them. But it is stamina, which Deku hasn't been getting, because they can use their ability for such a long time, almost throughout their whole life, without stopping it. And Deku would feel the stamina boost, and he can kind of gauge how much power he gets. But he would feel his, stamina go up a lot. But what would his ability be? I would say it gives him an ability called Moment Hardening. Or no, why did I say hardening? This was really hard. Maybe I'll just make that one doesn't have have power, kind of like a regular slime, but they have a power. But all they know is that their bodies just have a naturally hard. So yeah, he was gain kind of a lot of stamina, and you continuous run. He wouldn't run too far. I'll say he runs another 15 meters that way, or another way, or another 100 meters, and he would run into this one. They're the lowest level wolves in this. There's low tier, mid tier, high tier, and there's a chief, which is automatically the strongest, of course. But once they become chief, they're on a different level than the rest. this low tier one, he would have a lot of stamina, so or Deku wouldn't be any tired. But these ones are known to have storm abilities. But low tier ones only seem to have wind. That's it. Mid tier ones would just have stronger winds. And high tier ones have lightning and wind. And the top one, the Chiefs, gain their own special ability. If you guys don't get this, is another time I got reincarnated into Slime's ability, but upgraded a little bit. But yeah, I'll say there's 3 of them because they're not hunting and packed yet. They're just kind of hanging out. Deku would get there, and Deku, I'll say, he's been stacking up some abilities from the slimes, and he would put the blade back into him by absorbing it through his hands, and he would pull out a small sword. Nothing too big, but nothing too small. Bigger than a dagger, but smaller than a sword. Kind of how Malleus's sword is. And he would run at them with them shooting wind, with them ducking down, and he would put out his hands saying flame ball or flame bolt. Shooting out one. This one is like a spread shot, kind of mimicking lightning. That's why it has bolts in it. It would hit them, blasting them back. This one was just made to stun them, and Deku thinks he's out of his league now because these ones were way faster than him, but because of that, he would jump onto one and he would start stabbing it over and over. That's when one would claw him in the chest, send him back, and you could feel the pain. He's like, why did I come here? I'm such an idiot. That's when the other one would run at him, shooting wind, blasting him back. That's when Deku would start regenerating his scratch on the stomach, bit by bit. It's like half as it was. And when this happens, he would act like he's dead, but that's when one would walk over there trying to bite him and like take him to the tribe to eat. But this whenever Deku would jump up, spinning, cutting one in the neck, dragging his blade through it, leaving one more left, which the one would howl, which would alert the heroes, alert the other tribe, and they're like, is this something happening? And they're getting ready for a wolf attack, which I'll say, there's not really like strong heroes protecting the gate because all the strong heroes are further back. And, oh yeah, for every 100 meters, from the circle city, which I'll just call it from now on, has a higher level. And the heroes are at 200 or 24 meters. And after you hit 10 meters, it gets 2 meters, which have more monsters in it, of course. And it will continuously get higher every 10 meters. Or every 10 meters, yeah. Farther away, and the area changes. So, 10 meters, or that's like, 10 meters, which is around like a couple miles. It would be more like a rain, or like more like a jungle, or like forest. Beyond that, it would be like that to 30, then after that, it would turn into the desert. But yeah, the one would charge at him, and this one would say, or it would growl, and its horn would cover with wind, and it would thrust at him, with Deku running at him, and he would grab the horn, which would take off his fingers, but he would switch it to go in a different direction. And he would take his sword, and he would cover it in flames again, cutting its head off too. Deku's dropping back, screaming out loud because his body is still human, and he does feel pain, unlike a slime, and be screaming. And eventually, it's been about an hour while he's walking back, more like hiding back, and his fingers would regrow. And this was whenever he would test the new abilities. He would put his hands out, creating wind, which this wind's strong enough. I'll say every wolf can use airwalk, which Deku would jump up, going through the trees, airwalking. It's more like air jump instead of walking on air. They're more like jumping forward. And the wolves can gallop, pretty much, and that's how they do it. But Deku's using his high stamina to do this farther enough. And he would land, going through his hole through the gate, dropping through. And he says, I just need to work on these slimes. Picking up a white slime, crushing it. And I need more regeneration powers. Because that really hurt, like, fucking really badly. Next one, he's probably going to be 12, and he's probably going to be, like, 7 meters, or 700 meters in. But, yeah. And you're going to be surprised what, or 7 meters where the chief is. So, yeah, see you in the next one.